Yes. So the first verse was about everything is complete. And even the Brahman Paramatma platform that we studied, it's complete. The only thing that's missing is the way I look at it. So it's not that the people who are approaching the Brahman platform or the Paramatma platform, that Brahman Paramatma are incomplete. They all are complete, but it's just the way that I see it. And I gave the example of the three children who are waiting for the train in the darkness of the night. So they don't, first one doesn't see, just sees the light and the sound and runs away. The other sees the body and runs away. The third one sees the whole structure. And it has a driver, it has people, it has bogies, it has lights, and so on and so forth. So the third one's complete, but that doesn't mean the first two, in the first two instances of the first two kids, it's not a complete train. It was a complete train every time. So yes, that's good. Anything else anyone remembers that we discussed?
Yeah, everything emanates from our Lord. And, like
The voice is very low, Mataji.
what...
The voice is very low. We can't hear you clearly.
How is it now?
It's not. It's not any better. Okay. Well, Mataji comes back. Yeah. So today we are doing the first verse 1. So this Isopanishad has 18 verses, and the way the Isopanishad has been divided, I want to give you an overview of the Isopanishad. Introduction to the mantra thi is living in harmony with Ishvara. And that's what we read. Right? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnauchatte Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. And then the next, the Isopanishad is famous is being presenting the Ishavasyan principle, which is what we'll be discussing today. Ishavasyan idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Tena taktena bhunjita bhagada kashit swedhanam. Right? So that's what we'll be discussing. So that's the first three verses. Mantra 4 to 8 will talk about the spiritual vision by which we can understand Krishna, the Supreme. And then 9 to 11 and 12 to 14, they're very similar verses. They're nearly the same, with only one word is different in them. So when we come to them, you'll see, we'll talk about the similarities and the dissimilarities in them. But they are nearly the same, right? Anya devahur vidyaya, anya dahura vidyati shishruma dhirana, yenastad vichashya. And then similarly, its counterpart, the 13th verse is Anya devahur sambhavat, anya devahur sambhavat, iti shishruma dhirana, yenastad vichashya. So nearly same, just one word difference. They're talking about two different ways of approaching God. And then the last is our prayers, where the speaker is asking the Lord to reveal himself. And that's where we will see that how it strengthens the personal aspect of God, how the speaker would is going to ask the Lord that please show me your face. Right? Mukham. So yeah. So right now we are in the Ishavasya principle. Today is the Ishavasya verse. So Ishavasya, let's see where's the verse. So Ishavasya. Ishavasya sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena taktena bhunjita magadha kasya siddhanam. The translation is everything. Just a minute. Is it the same? Yeah. Oh, well, that's it. I'm just trying to. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota. And one must not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. And you will notice whenever the first letter is capitalized, that's referring to God, to Krishna. That's why Prabhupada has put this whom, even though it's in the middle of a sentence, the W is capital. That means he's telling us that whom whom is referred to here is Krishna, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So So just that's how Prabhupada has written his books and presented his books. So now, so this presents a very interesting concept that one should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one must not accept other things. So quota, the word quota is coming here. So now the question comes, do we need to endeavor to get what is in my quota, right? And the obvious, if I don't endeavor, how am I going to get results? So endeavor is necessary. Endeavor is okay, but over endeavor is not okay. Right? Can anybody remember who were present at that time? A verse from Nectar of Instruction that talks of over endeavoring. No one remembers that verse, or you all can't hear me? You all can hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. That's good. So no one remembers the verse that talks about over endeavoring the nectar of instruction. Okay, that's fine. The second verse is this second verse of nectar. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jansangha chalolyam cha sadbhir bhaktir vinashyati. Rupa Goswami gives us 6 ways by which our bhakti gets destroyed, and one of them is atyahara, collecting too much, and prayasascha, over endeavoring. So endeavor is okay, over endeavoring is not okay. Over endeavoring leaves very little space for me in my spiritual life. Right? There should be a balance. We should be methodical about what we do, for sure, in the material world, but we should not put our heart into it. Methodical but dispassionate. That's the way to look at it. Prabhupada quotes a verse from there's a verse in Hitopadesh, right? It says, Nahi suptasya simhasya pravishanti mukhe mriga. That what it means is that Nahi suptasya simhasya pravishanti mukhe mrige. Mukhe means mouth, mriga means deer, and as we know, simha means lion. So it doesn't come, deer doesn't come and walk into the mouth of a lion. That's that's stated in the Hitopadesh. Prabhupada quotes this in one of his purports, right? Udamane hi siddhyanti kurvanti na manoratha. That actually by endeavor only one attains success, right? But then at the same time, I'm trying to give you the contrasting things that are brought up in the scriptures. I just wanted to bring it so that, and then probably if I can give you how they all come together. So at the same time, so I just gave you a verse from Hitopadesh where we are told that deer doesn't come and walk into the mouth of a lion and yeah, please eat me. No, it doesn't happen. Lion has to do some endeavor. But at the same time, we heard Prahlad Maharaj. He says Sukham Indriyam Daityam. That verse, 7th canto, that Sukham comes by itself. And also we hear it from Narad Muni in the 1st canto, the 5th chapter, Taseva Heto Prayateta Kovido. Na labhyate brahma upariyatha. Ta labhyate sukhavan anyata dukhan kalena sarvatra gabhiram. That happiness and your miseries, they are already predefined for you. They are going to come to you whether you. So you should always use your time in bhakti. Right? So what it means is that, as I was saying, we should not put our heart into it. So when we talk of getting things in quota, we should put in our endeavor as a duty. This is the kind of life I will live to have a good spiritual. I live to have a good spiritual life. By endeavor, it is not that we produce the result. We just contribute to the endeavor. That is why Shastra are telling us everything is predefined for you. Right? Okay, but then there is some contribution that you do. But you do that contribution as a duty. We do endeavor not to get results, but as a form of service to Krishna. That's the right mindset to have it. So when some of you are reading Bhagavatam or already have read Bhagavatam, might come across these verses that I just quoted from Narad Muni and Prahlad Maharaj, where they're saying that, without endeavor, things will come to you. So I just want to clarify that. What it means is that, yes, everything is is being defined, but then we have to understand that we have to put in effort as a duty. That's our role. It's not that we are defining the outcome. The outcome is predefined, but the endeavor is dependent on. So we do it as a duty, and then whatever we come, we accept it as Krishna's mercy. So that's the way devotees think. That's the way we all should try to think. So this first verse is about the Ishavasya principle, about the quota, right? Everything is perfect, okay? So the invocation said everything is perfect. Then the first verse says everything belongs to the Ishvara. Everything belongs to Ishvara, right? So as I was telling you that the uh, invocation to the third mantra 3 is living in harmony with Ishvara. Okay? So that's the important part, living in harmony with Ishvara. And that's what this verse is teaching us. So that's how, so all the 3 verses, her invocation to the third verse, that is 4 verses in total, they are giving us uh, the concept of how we live in harmony. So first, we have to understand everything is perfect. Purna. Second, we understand everything belongs to Isha. Isha Vasya. It's Vasya. The word Vas means, as we know in Hindi, Sanskrit, Vas means to reside. So Isha Vasya. Everything resides in the Lord. Everything belongs to Him. So then in the next verse, we will see how living in harmony gives us benefits. And then the following third verse, we'll see how it comes when we live in disharmony. So, yeah. Okay. So, Prabhupada, did you all get a chance to read the purport? How many of you have read the purport?
I have.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Anybody else has read the purport? No more reading purports? Okay. Purport reading is very important. I can't stress enough on reading purports, Prabhupada's purports. I've mentioned that this is not an easy book. It's not like Bhagavad Gita that things might be self-evident, self-explanatory. This requires a good amount of reading. So please read purports. They're not very long, hardly 15 minutes of your time, of your precious time, and everything will be fine. Prabhupada would be awake at nights. He would sleep and wake up at 12 in the morning or 12 a.m. and he would write the whole night. We surely can't gather the amount of enthusiasm and the determination that Prabhupada had to write it, but at least we can have enough enthusiasm and determination to read his books. So please, my humble request, please read purports. Not for just for this discussion. Read Prabhupada's books. Without Prabhupada's books, we are like just floating in this misery, in this universe. If not for Prabhupada's books. And you might think that I have understood everything. It doesn't work that way. It's not that easy. We have to get it from a guru. Prabhupada has told this us many times. Okay. Any thoughts or comments at this point? Understanding the Ishavasya principle, how to find your quota, know what your quota is.
Yeah, what is the point when we like know that we are over endeavoring about something?
So when the greed to possess something is disproportionate, when we have to over endeavor to get something and that distracts us from spiritual life, that's where we understand that we are jumping over our quota. So the whole purpose of this life is to align ourselves to what Krishna wants and then go back home. This is a hospital. We talked about it in one of the discussions. This place is like a hospital. I have to take the right medicines, have the right schedule as being told to me by the doctor, and then I'll be able to go back. But if I don't do that, then that becomes the problem. So anything we do that takes us away from our spiritual life, from your daily schedule of your bhakti, is over endeavoring. And it can come in many shapes and forms. Sometimes when I'm going to bed at night, I open my phone and then I get lost in YouTube or something and I get lost. And then I realize, oh my God, it's already an hour. I wasted an hour. And then the effect that has on the next morning is I'm not able to wake up at time. That is out of my quota. I should not have done that. We have to figure out what is manageable anxiety and what is non-manageable anxiety in our life. Okay? So it's the over endeavor which distracts us from the spiritual life. It gives us non-manageable anxiety. Endeavor by itself is not wrong. And when you do an endeavor, it gives us the clarity to take a decision. And we're able to take decisions if we are endeavoring. If this activity is going to hurt my spiritual practice, then that's the problem. Some people make their jobs everything. Krishna calls them Muda in 7:15, 7th chapter 15th of Bhagavad Gita. So when somebody's every sense of identity becomes work, and work is used to escape from other problematic dimensions of life, right? Unfortunately, in today's world, this kind of over endeavoring is glamorized. We have to attain balance, and there is no one formula. It's not like I can give you the magic formula. It's a dynamic balance that we all have to achieve in our life. When pilots are flying the aircrafts, it's not like they just put it on autopilot and go to sleep. Every minute they have to bring the plane back on the path. A change of 3 degrees, the plane, instead of landing in New York, will land in DC. That's the difference of just 3 degrees and there if the pilots are. So it's all about balancing. So a devotee, how does a devotee, now coming to your answer to be more from a spiritual perspective, the devotee prioritizes spiritual life. One way is that we intensify our spiritual endeavors, right? So, and another way is you can actually intensify our spiritual endeavors by comparing our spiritual activities to material activities. I'm realizing this firsthand. I might have given this example in the past year. I've recently, the last few months, I've been pulled into a project which I don't know much about. The technology we are working on, I don't have much knowledge about it. So it's a lot of learning from me. And on top of that, it's a team of highly motivated individuals who are working from 7 in the morning till 7 in the evening or even later than that. And I don't do that. I've consciously made a choice that I'm not going to do it. Somebody messages me after 5:30, I don't reply back. But I really appreciate the hard work that they're putting in. And I realize that I merely have probably 1% or 2% of that for my spiritual endeavors. And I was praying to Krishna, Krishna, can you please give me so much motivation and determination as these guys have for the material things they are doing, right? So one way is that's another way that how can we intensify our spiritual endeavors is by looking at people in this material world, how motivated they are. Why can't I be that motivated for my bhakti cause? That also pulls us away from that over endeavoring. And sorry, it's a very broad question that what is our quota and how to know it. But I'm just giving you many different aspects to it, and you can. So it's not like I cannot give you a magic formula. I wish I had that. Another way to understand our quota is by bringing in the concept of service. That's one more thing I would like to bring out that part. So in general, the concept of being a proprietor is very attractive, right? Oh, this is mine. This thing is mine. Right? Alexander wanted to rule the whole world. But then on the other hand, it's also very easy to give up this sense of proprietorship because everything is illusory. Everything is transitionary. We just need to be very conscious. There's a phrase that I've heard Prabhupada use is, not necessarily Prabhupada, might be some senior devotee, enlightened engagement. We have to be enlightened engagement. We cannot move in this world with our senses closed. Yeah, let's just do whatever the whole world is doing. No, we have to be very conscious of every single thing we are doing. Then we will be able to more consciously understand what my quota is, where I am jumping out of my quota. So when we are able to consciously give up the concept of being a proprietor, what are we left with then? What we are left with that, with an opportunity to use everything in Krishna's service. Right? And that's the process of yoga, that everything in the universe is owned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So then if everything is his, what am I to do with it? All I can do is use it in his service. So in Bhakti Yoga, we employ everything we have as a possession that can be used for Krishna's service. Krishna says in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 27th verse, Yad karoshi yad ashnashi yad juhosi dudashi yad tapasyasi kanteya kurushva madarpada. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, you just give it to me. You do it for me. Right? And we do so many things every day, right? Eating, work, whatever it is. So one can start on this path of spiritual connection to Krishna by considering that everything belongs to him. And whatever has been set aside for my quota, I will use. That means we don't have to endeavor to get too many things, right? Do just get what you need. Do a job. Probably a time will come when the people around you in the job will be annoying and we will get another job. Just do what you have to do to survive. Don't overdo it. Kamasya nendriya priti labho jiveta yamata jivasya tattva jigyasa nato yasyeha karmavi. That's a verse from the 1st canto, 2nd chapter. He's saying that kamasya nendriya priti, kamasya, that labhu jiveta yavata, jivasya tattva jigyasa, that you're just do enough work, kamasya nendriya priti, labhu jiveta yavata, that you can live. And jivasya tattva jigyasa, use the remaining part to be curious about spiritual life. So just do enough, get enough sleep, not too much, not too little. Krishna talks about in the 6th chapter. Eat properly, eat good food, bitter melon, avocado, blueberries, paneer, good food. Eat nicely. If you have to enjoy it, if you have to recreate, take some time for yourself. Then whatever else you have, you offer to Krishna. Then you feel an intimate connection to Krishna. It's right there. That relationship is right there, but we have diverted our attention.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah. So so obviously, I can go on and let. There are so many ways, as I mentioned, being enlightened engagement. It could be in everything. For example, financial management. You create a budget that you prioritize your needs over your wants, right? Avoid debts. Time management. Prioritize your duties, in your professional, personal life, spiritual lives. Relationships. You have to give and take. That's the verse in the Nectar of Instruction. Dadati patti granati. Give and take. Eat mindfully. Don't just eat unmindfully. Oh yeah, I'll eat everything just because it tastes good. No. Be cautious about the environment around us. Live sustainably. There is so much about carbon footprint nowadays in the world. Our office has been restricting air flights just so that we have the carbon budget. Social interactions. Speak with people in a appropriate way. Be truthful, beneficial. 17th chapter, Krishna says that. So a lot of things, obviously, to understand what our quota is. But these were some thoughts on my mind.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's not a simple answer. It's a very broad concept, but you can take home a phrase which I said: enlightened engagement. Living mindful. Mindfulness nowadays is very popular. Be mindful of whatever we are doing. Why am I doing it? so you could own 5 houses, but that could be over endeavoring. That might be out of your quota if you're using it for instant gratification, but it might be very well in your quota if you're using it for Krishna service. Yeah. Prabhupada was a billionaire. But then there are so many billionaires who are using it for their personal sense gratification. But Prabhupada was using everything for Krishna. So it was all within the quota. Everything was within quota because everything can be used in Krishna's service. Okay. Yes. So let's go on to this purport of where's my slides? So the purport, Prabhupada is divided into 11 paragraphs. Before I jump in here, any more questions, any more thoughts? Anybody? Anything on your mind?
Can you hear
I
me?
will can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, I've been trying to get through. My computer's freaking me out, but I'm in the same zone here too. In reference to this quota thing, the terminology, quota. I mean, I just can't sit like a bump on a log. I need to eat. I need to work.
Yeah.
And I have to come and go. And in my heart, I have desires to do things. How do I know if that's desire is the quota or not? I'm not so sure about what this is all talking about.
Yeah. So as I mentioned,
will it come clear as we listen here? I mean, I read this report a bunch of times, but then that's where I was thinking, well, what is your quota? I mean, what do you? And I didn't see the answer.
So Prabhupada gives when we read the purport, Prabhupada explains quota from many different angles. He talks about quota in the animal world. He talks of quota in from a human how we are supposed to do that about quota thing, and then he gives a more broader concept, communism and capitalism. We'll go through it. Let's see the examples, and then I can come back and connect those examples to how we can understand our quota also.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, just what you just said. Now I know what I'm going to be looking at. Now I see what you're saying. Prabhupada broke it down with different perspectives. So that's good. Now I can see. I'm going to follow, but I just, wanted to bring that I'm trying to ponder the same thing. So
yeah, and
it's not.
Yes, sorry.
So I'm going to follow you.
Yeah, it's as I said, it's not like I can give you a short and a crisp way of doing it. As I was saying, it's an enlightened engagement. We have to engage in this world in a very conscious way. Because we are smart individuals, we are smart beings, we are not like animals. We have to live very consciously.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have to live very consciously.
Well, that's true too, but I've been like an animal my whole life. I mean, until I got involved with more conscientious understanding, and even with that understanding, it only gets clearer as you stick with the process.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, but I'm not really conscious. I'm just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending at whatever degree I can. And what my only limitation is my intelligence.
Yeah.
So if I don't have a lot of intelligence, then I can only go so far. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, but
you're smarter than me, and you can do something different than me. The doctor's smarter than me. He does something different than me. So, I mean, I think maybe it's such a personal thing that Super Soul will guide you with your limitations. That's don't try to get any more than your limitation. That you have something like that.
Oh yes, bro. That's the truth. You brought about a very good point about intelligence, and I have brought out this verse many a times in our discussions. I'll bring it out again, just because not everybody might remember it. This is the 7th canto, verse number 14. Sorry, 7th canto, chapter 14, verse number 38. Narad Muni talking to Yudhishthira Maharaj. O King Yudhishthira, The super soul in every body gives intelligence to the individual soul according to his capacity for understanding. Therefore, the super soul is chief within the body. The super soul is manifested to the individual soul according to the individual's comparative development of knowledge, austerity, penance, and so on. So as you were saying, yes, we all have intelligence, but then why do some people are more intelligent than the others? From a spiritual perspective, why do you see people, in spiritual world, senior devotees, they know exactly what they want to do, what they have to do, because they have put in a significant amount of austerity and penance for the super soul to reveal them, to give them that intelligence. Right? For Krishna, from within the heart, Ajnanajam tamha nashyami atma bodhasya, that Krishna says in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 11th verse, that when I see somebody trying to interact with me out of love, putting in that austerity, putting in that effort, putting in that endeavor, then I, from within their heart, I burn that ignorance, which is not letting them have that clarity. What is my quota? What is not my quota? Right or wrong? Good or bad? Being stuck in the mode of ignorance and passion. I pull them to the mode of goodness. Right? And that's what Prabhupada is saying here, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his localized aspect, gives intelligence to the individual soul as far as he is able to grasp it. Therefore, we find the individual soul in different high and low positions. Okay? And then I'll just quickly show you something that Prabhupada says. Beginning from Brahma down to the ant, everyone is conducted by the super soul, Ishvara Sarva Bhutana Hirdesha Arjuna Tishtati. But because of a particular person's advancement in spiritual consciousness, he is considered to be important. Therefore, the Brahman Vaishnava is important, and all above, the super soul, the personality of Godhead, is the most important personality. So we all are being directed by our super soul. However, based on the knowledge that I have developed, based on the austerity I am putting in, I might or might not be receiving the message from the super soul. When I put in that austerity, it clears those roadblocks between me and the super soul and makes me more intelligent to understand what is right and wrong. How should I proceed on this path? So yes, you brought out a very good point about intelligence. And where does intelligence come from? Austerity, penance, knowledge. What we all are doing here is we sit down, we're just reading, trying to wrap our heads around it. And Krishna is seeing it from within our hearts. And he will give us the intelligence. Was that good, Prabhu? Thank you for bringing out that question.
Yeah. There's a fine line between the false ego thinking you have something going on, and the super soul telling you, don't do this, don't do that. And then after a while, when you, like you say, the austerity or following just the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, then as you traverse the path and you realize the goal, you can achieve it by the help of the super soul. But the same thing that, let's just say someone doesn't have any, there's no link to this super soul program. We're linked to the super soul program. But other people, they are out there endeavoring. And so I can see the only reason they got whatever they got coming to them, even by their endeavors, because everyone has to work, they have to go to school, they have to get their degree. I mean, all that's the endeavor to get something. So on the material plane, you're just functioning and putting things together. And the only relativity there is that if your karma is not conducive to your desires, you're going to spin, crash, and burn on it. I mean, you can only go so far.
That's correct.
But then if you get linked with this spirituality, then there's a thing that's telling you, okay, hey, look, you got so much to your quota, you have so much, that you have to realize and understand and that you must do. And then the ultimate goal is WHOM. that I never, that's not in the purport. Whom, that word, realizing whom, when you really bring it on home, whom? Well, who's the ultimate whom,
Yeah.
And everything is his, actually.
Yeah. You're right, Prabhu. People can come from the lower levels to higher through the process of austerity. And so what austerity does is it sharpens our spiritual purposefulness. That's the important thing. Austerities do that. And, I'll give you an example. When the Pandavas were in the exile, they were exiled. They were living in the forest. During the later phase of their exile, they went through the Himalayas and they went through the heavenly areas. They came to a garden of the king of the demigod Kuvera. He's the treasure of the demigods. So he's got an amazing garden. And then Kuvera invited them, "Oh, please stay here as long as you want, have fun in this gardens." So even though technically they were still in a forest, but then that forest was heavenly. It was far more comfortable for them than the austere life they were living on the earthly forests. But after staying there for some time, Bhima and Arjun, they approached Yudhishthira and told him that, "Let's go back. We're not going to stay here anymore." Because amidst that comfort that they were seeing there, they would have forgotten the atrocities that the Kauravas had perpetrated against them. Right? So similarly in bhakti, if we are not putting in endeavor, our bhakti tool gets dull. So austerity sharpens the spiritual purposefulness, sharpens our spiritual aspirations, and at the same time, Krishna from within our heart guides us to do, what not to do. So austerity is very important. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're aligning yourself with the purpose, but and then again, if you're in this Krishna consciousness, if you're casual, just like hanging out in that forest, like you just said, well, what happens? Yeah, you're right. If you're casual, you become a casualty.
Yeah.
So, and then so in some ways they say, and there's like three people: some that make it happen, some that watch it happen, and some that wonder what happened.
Yeah.
But just with the medicine, I think with the medicine that is administered by the spiritual master, who's the expert, to cut that illusion, if we can follow, if we can really adhere to that with sincerity, the super soul says, "Oh yeah, you're doing just what he said, and you're doing this and that." And at that point, super soul says, "Okay, now I have a chance to tighten you up a little more."
Yeah, that's right, bro. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just this whole thing here is somewhat what do you call? It's somewhat not so well. It's not so easy for me to perceive what we're talking about here. So I'm just gonna keep trying to listen. It makes sense, and you're pointing it out so that I can try to keep up with it. And and here's another thing. Sometimes I've seen in my life, in this spiritual life, it's been like 50 years. Sometimes, just like something I'm pondering right now, let's say quota, but I keep studying, and all of a sudden, Super Soul will say, "Here's what quota means. Catch this now." Finally.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I can't understand, and like I'm trying to quiz you a little bit, but sometimes I just have to shut up and just, go with it, and not, I'm not giving up, or I'm not feeling anything except that, I must be more patient to get more advanced to understand this whole point that's being made.
Yeah. Yes, bro, you're right. Krishna from within the heart can reveal it to you. Austerity, again, coming back to austerity, is very valuable and helps us. That is why Prabhupada put one of the 4 regulative principles as intoxication, no intoxication, because intoxication destroys austerity. Austerity allows us to see life beyond mind and senses. Because that's the way the whole world is living, through the mind and senses. So we quieten the mind and senses by austerity. And then it becomes clear to us things like, what is my quota? What am I supposed to do? So that's what I was saying. Enlightened engagement in this creation, not being a senseless engagement, right? So that's what is needed. So Krishna is right in my heart. So one of the qualifications is austerity. Then Krishna starts revealing himself to me. We have to listen to the deepest desires, not the loudest desires. Yeah. So yes, true.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense too. Yeah, and and sometimes devotees make mistakes too, because like
Oh, you muted yourself, Prabhu.
the devotees were walking with Prabhupada one time, and they said, "Oh," and they saw these men under a tree, and they said, "Oh, Prabhupada, we can live like that." And Prabhupada freaked out. He said, what do you think? Your father is a poor man? This is not necessary for you to live like this. Yeah. And it's something like that too. Your perspective is not as clear or as qualified until, like you're saying, you follow the 4 regular principles, you come more purified, and then it makes sense. Yeah, you got a quota. Yeah. Don't be a pig. Don't be bullish. Don't try to just govern and control everything that you see. Have some restriction and control based on just bare necessities, but not be such an extreme that think, oh yeah, I just got to live under a tree. No.
No. Yeah,
Prabhupada outlines and sets an example for us too.
Yeah.
And even he said, but at the same time, in our culture, we were used to beds and chairs and things, and Prabhupada realized that too, and didn't really force everyone to have to be super austere. I mean, Prabhupada was so austere when he lived in Damodar Temple. Mm-hmm. I mean, we couldn't. I couldn't live like that. Maybe now I could, but I mean. In reality, I mean, Prabhupada saw that how we were living, but he still let us realize that there has to be that focus on the central point. Yeah. So yeah, this is interesting. I mean, and I read this. I lived this. I mean, this Sri Isopanishad was the second book I read right after the Bhagavad Gita, right within 15 days, and this book blew my mind. I mean, what I saw here, but now that I'm trying to analyze every little word here, I'm seeing that I still don't have a real clear perspective, but I'm just going to be patient and just go with it.
We all are going with it. Yeah, we all are trying to grasp it, and we just keep trying. Krishna, then from within our heart, he reveals it to us.
Yes. Okay.
What
Thank
everything
you.
Is. Okay. So. Coming to what so in the whole paragraph, Prabhupada kind of brings back he's talked about it in the introduction. It has been discussed in the introduction, the Vedic knowledge and so forth. Prabhupada, because this is actually the starting of the Isopanishad. So Prabhupada gives again a kind of a short summary of the things that he had discussed about the Vedas, and then the 4 defects that we all have. That is because of these 4 defects, we cannot deliver perfect information. So we need to take information from Vedas, which are Prabhupada is calling them Aparushya. They're not being written, not delivered by a person in the mundane world. And then he says that this knowledge was actually coming from Krishna. It was imparted to the heart of Brahma. That's the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Tene Brahma Hirdaya Adi Kavaye Muyanti Yat Suraya. The Tene Brahma Hirdaya. Tene means you, Brahma, not Brahma. Hirdaya means the heart. Adi Kavaye, you gave it to him. So that's it's coming from a transcendental platform. That is why we have to have faith on what the Vedas are saying instead of what I get to hear from this mundane world in terms of knowledge. That's where Prabhupada brings it. And then he talks about Purnam that we have heard in the first invocation before this. right? That everything is complete, right? And then he gives a brief sentence here saying that how Isopanishad is a part of the Yajur Veda. We talked about this also in the slides. If I have it somewhere, I thought in the slides I had. This was the first slide we had seen, right? How under the Vedas, they were divided into Aranyakas, Samhitas, Upanishads. And so yes, so Prabhupada is confirming that for us, that yes, it's a part of the Yajur Veda. Then coming to the other parts of the purport. So now Prabhupada in this third paragraph, so third paragraph is, what is the third paragraph? Let's see what it says. So third to fourth, how Lord is the proprietor of everything. So Prabhupada is explaining this as, and he's giving reference to the Bhagavad Gita for this purport. So he's talking about the elements of nature. This is coming from the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 4 and 5, where Krishna says, Bhumi Rapu Nalo Vayu, Kham Mano Buddhi Revacha, Ahankara Itiyamte Bhin Prakarashtada. There are eight elements in this material world: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. They all are the inferior energy. And then what's the superior energy? Krishna says, Aparimyatastvanya Prakriti Vidhi Me Param Jeev Bhuta Mahabhao Yayedam Yarate Jagat. Then is Jiva Bhuta, Jiva, the living entity, us, who are using the inferior material nature, the matter. So Prabhupada is explaining that, but then he says, Aparimyatastvanya Prakriti Vidhi Me Param Jeev Bhuta Mahabhao Yayedam Dharate Jagat. Etad Yonini Bhutani Sarvani Tyupadharya. Is that the right verse? Sorry, let me confirm that. 7.5. So 7.4 and 5 is we are told there that everything belongs to is either material or spiritual in nature. But then Krishna says in the 6th verse that I quoted that right. Etadyonini bhutani sarvani tyupadharya. That all created beings have their source in these two natures. And he says that aham krishnaste jagata prabhava pralayastata. That I am the origin and dissolution of all these things. So Prabhupada is explaining this to us in the purport here, that how either it's material energy or spiritual energy, both of them are eventually a part of Krishna. There is nothing in this universe that does not belong either to matter or spirit, and they both are controlled by Krishna himself. Right? So logically, sometimes you might start thinking that, oh no, how this doesn't make sense. This house belongs to me. I have a document that says that I'm the owner of this house. But to understand is that how long do I have this house for? For a few years, somebody else owned it before me, somebody else will own it after I'm gone. Natural devastation may happen, the government might come and take over my house. And because my proprietorship is transitory, it is illusory. Right? It's transitory because it's only for a short period of time. We have control, but only partial. Right? In a kingdom, there might be many farmers, they might have lands to themselves, but the true owner is the king, and he may take the land anytime he wants. Farmers are subordinate owners. Similarly, everything belongs to Krishna. We are just tenants here. Even this body is not mine. Right? So looking from a long-term perspective, Lord is the proprietor. Right? But then somebody might say, oh no, nature is just lying around. Why can't I use it? But the bigger question to ask is, where did this nature come from? So this lack of acceptance of a supreme intelligence behind all what we are seeing around us is what makes us feel that we can use things as we choose. Right? That's the problem that we all are going through. Right? Logically, okay, you might not be able to convince everybody that Krishna is God and he's a person and he's the owner of everything. But logically, we can see that everything has a source to it, and that source is not me. Right? So the question comes then, if everything belongs to God, should I not take anything for myself? No. Prabhupada is giving an example of a cow in the purport. Every living being has a quota. Cows, let me see where is that in the purport. Cow, yes, this purport, this paragraph. Prabhupada is giving an example of a cow to exemplify what kota means in this nature. Cow eats grass and gives milk. And it's not like the cow is drinking the milk itself. And it's not like the whole milk that the cow generates is for the calf. The calf barely drinks a fraction of it. So, similarly, a lion is not going to eat grass, even if he's starving. And cow will not eat meat. Right? So, animals never go out of their quota. I was in in Baltimore, there's a national aquarium. It's a very good aquarium. I was there with Keshav a couple of weeks ago. I noticed, and we were looking at this 3D, the video, there was a video, and they're talking about whales in that. And I was surprised to see that there are so many different types of whales, and they all have a different kind of food. And they don't jump over. For example, the killer whales, which are the biggest ones, the orcas, they call them orcas. The biggest one, they eat big animals, seals, sea leopards. That's what they eat. And they will travel far distance just to eat them. It's not like because there's no sea lion or a seal around them, they'll just start eating small fishes. No, they don't do that. Right? So the animal world, the quota is perfectly fixed. And that is why Prabhupada says a statement here, which I really liked. Is it somewhere here? Where was that? This thing, yeah, let's see this here. Amongst the living beings, whether animals or birds or reptiles, there is strict adherence to the laws of nature. And therefore, there is no question of sin for them, nor are the Vedic instructions meant for them. That is why I mentioned this in the past. Animals don't have any karma. They don't go through the karmic cycle because they never come out of their quota. Similarly, if we live within our quota, what is our needs and just fulfill those and not over endeavor to accumulate more than what is necessary and invest our other time and effort and heart in bhakti, we are within our quota. Then we don't get any sins, no karma accumulated. So yes, that's Prabhupada is giving an example of a very good example of a cow. Then Prabhupada gives an example of this earth, how this world. So he's talking about our houses, like, our houses are made of some things, wood, steel, cement, so forth, right? Prabhupada is telling us then we cannot produce these things ourselves. We can simply bring them together and transform them, right? So if we ask a carpenter to make a table and give him some wood, it's not like that the carpenter will start thinking himself as the owner of the table. No. Prabhupada once met a businessman and he asked the businessman, okay, so what do you do? The businessman said, Prabhupada, I have a glass factory. I make glasses. Prabhupada said, okay, where does glass come from? Glass being silica, comes from sand, as you know, sand is also silica. And that's what the person was coming from sand. And then Prabhupada said, where does sand come from? So that businessman got a hint what Prabhupada was going to. He said, oh, Prabhupada, everything belongs to Krishna. Then Prabhupada said, oh, you understand that everything belongs to Krishna, but you just said that you own a glass factory. That means you're a thief. You're taking something that doesn't belong to you. The person said, but Prabhupada, I give a part of it to Krishna also. Prabhupada said, okay, then you're not a big thief, you're a small thief. So we are all encroaching on God's property, right? And we have to limit ourselves accordingly through our conscious effort. Yes, Mati? I can't hear you.
Yeah. How's it now, Prabhuji?
No better. I can't hear you. Do you want to type your message if you are not driving or anything? If you can type, please type. If not, we can come back to it later or next time or when we meet in person sometime. Okay, so that's an example Prabhupada gave from a dwelling perspective, like our houses, this material world. And then Prabhupada goes on to give an example of capitalists and communists. I like this example very much. Prabhupada gives this, right? As we all know, capitalists and communism are fundamentally different economic and political ideologies. They're always in conflict, right? Because capitalism says is about private ownership, right? That people own factories, land, etc. Individuals and businesses own and control resources, wealth. It's a free market. That's what basically capitalism is. The market economy is driven by a supply and demand principle, and the motive is profit in capitalism. Whereas in communism, there is a collective ownership. The state owns everything, right? And then it's shared among people, but there's a state ownership. And the economic decisions are centrally planned by the government. They are not taken by individuals from a profit perspective. And the ultimate goal of communism is to create a classless society where wealth is distributed according to need and everyone has equal access to resources and opportunities. But then there has always been a conflict between capitalism and communism. We all know about what was that? The Cold War, right? Where the Cold War was 1947 to probably the late 1990s. Right? That's the most significant example of this conflict. United States representing the capitalist ideology and Russia representing the communist ideology. Right? So Prabhupada is sarcastically saying that we can't teach cats and dogs, right? Because both of them claim to be right. The communists say that we are right, capitalists say we are right. But eventually they both are wrong because they both are based on a godless philosophy. Okay? That is why Prabhupada wanted to establish the Varnashrama concept. Because Varnashrama concept integrates the absolute spiritual equality of all people with the relative material diversities. Right? We have talked about the Varnashrama concept a lot in the past. So Krishna says this in the 4th chapter, right? Chaturvarnya maya shishtam guna karma vibhave. That I have created the 4 varnas, which is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, but that's based on guna and karma. It's guna and karma. So guna is the quality that you have, and karma refers to activity. Right? So something you are, or guna is character, karma is competence. So that defines our. So basically, that's why Prabhupada. So what Prabhupada is saying is having a spiritual communism. That's the best thing. Everything belongs to God, and we use it with that perspective in mind. Then we will never over-endeavor. Then we will never go beyond our quota. Right? So that's why Prabhupada wanted to create the Varnashrama system. It provides a social structure for spiritual advancement. Right. So this is the part of the communist. Prabhupada brings out a more broader path. So where was the quote here? So we talked about, referring about proprietorship, nature. We talked about the cow and the lion. About the earth, we talked about how this Prabhupada's example about how a person owning a factory of glass. And then Prabhupada comes to explaining us how to understand what our quota in human diet is. So if you understand the link in all of this is living a very conscious life. Being very conscious of what we are doing, right? We can take examples from animals. Nobody oversteps their quota, right? So if a dumb animal can have that intelligence, why can't I as a human being have that intelligence? Similarly, on this, capitalist communism concept, this how the world works. But they all are godless societies. They both are over-endeavored because they don't have Krishna at the center of their ideology. And then Prabhupada gives the example of food, about our diet. Let's see where that is, diet. We talked of cats and food. Yeah, okay. He's talking about cats. There's a standard of life for human beings which cannot apply to animals. The tiger does not eat rice, wheat, or cow's milk because it has been given quota food stuff. Okay, so yes, so Prabhupada is talking about diet here. So so one's quota in human diet, right? So nowadays, non-vegetarianism is very prominent. But our quota indicates we are meant to be vegetarians. Now, somebody might ask, oh, how do you say that? Okay. If you all have not read it, please read. There is a book published by the Bhakti-Book Trust, ISKCON. It's called The Higher Taste. It has 50 very good recipes, so some good recipes for you to try. But more importantly, it has, I think there are 3 or 4 chapters in the beginning that talk about how scientifically, logically, we are meant to be vegetarians. And some examples that they give is that, for example, the length of the small intestine we all have. Our small intestine is very long. It's around 20 or 23 feet long, right? It's similar to other herbivorous animals who eat plants. In contrast, animals that eat meat, they have a very short small intestine because they eat and they expel quickly the food. Because if the food stays a long time in your intestines, it decays and it produces harmful toxins. That is why human beings, when we eat meat, when they eat meat, we don't eat meat. When they eat meat, they are more prone to diseases because of this reason. Similarly, our teeth structure. Our teeth are more tuned to be grinding and chewing rather than tearing flesh. Our molars are flat. Molars are front. They're suitable for grinding vegetables and so forth. Canines have sharper teeth, as you know. Teeth. If you see I don't know if you've seen a crocodile. They have a set of very sharp teeth, and a whale has a very sharp teeth. They're meant for tearing meat. Right? Digestive enzymes in our stomach, they are very different. Our saliva has an enzyme, what's it called? Amylase. It's called amylase. Amylase, yes. That amylase enzyme is specifically meant to break down complex carbohydrates that are only found in plants, not in anything else. Not in the meat that much. So then the acidity of our stomach, it's not as acidic as of meat-eating animals. So I'm just giving you some examples out there in the book, you can read it. But then understanding that we are meant to be vegetarians. So when we do devotion, when we do bhakti, it's not like the material resources will be taken away from us, but they will be properly distributed. We'll be using them properly. If people become religious minded, they will become vegetarians for sure, right? And there's so many things. If you realize that how much of a land is used to raise fodder for animals, that can be used to raise grains for human beings. There was this report, you also might have seen it some time ago, that if we use the best agricultural practices and if we just grow grains only for human beings, then we can satisfy the requirements of anywhere between 3 to 10 times of Earth's current population. Right? It's the selfishness. It's why selfishness that is eating up the resources. Every year, tons of food, of grains are thrown in the ocean. Why? Because if they're put in the market, the cost will go down and so much economic nonsense. And there are people who are hungry and suffering in some parts of the world. So that's what happens when we go beyond our quota. And selfishness creeps into our lifestyle. Right? Religion, on the other hand, spirituality, it brings about selflessness. And that leads to proper, equitable redistribution of resources. Okay. Anything on anybody's mind before I move forward? Any comments, any thoughts?
Prabhuji, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Prabhuji, so I understand that animals, they don't have karma, right? But some animals, they come to bhakti. So how does that happen? Like if they don't have karma and they're going through lives, so many lives, right? They have to go through 8.4 million lives to become a human being.
Mhm.
So what causes them to, before they become a human being, right? What leads them to bhakti? Like, like the dog that we know about, right? That comes to the temple and it goes Hare Krishna by going Hare Krishna, right? and like I've seen my personal experience, right? I went to India just recently, and Radharani's temple where she made kheer for that not Guru Maharaj, but for one of the pandits, and he ate kheer right from her hand, right? And that temple has nothing but parrots. Like the entire temple is like a one, right? And it has parrots. Like the number of parrots that I have seen at one place is amazing. In addition to that, Bhakti Vinod Thakur's temple, right? So many parrots are there. So what's bringing them there? Some Bhakti is bringing them there, right?
So let me go back and start it. Animals don't have any karma. They don't accumulate sins. There is no concept of karmic cycle. Their consciousness is not developed enough to understand God, religiousness, or spirituality. What you are referring to is the mercy of devotees. For example, I would have been still living my material life if somebody didn't just pull me out and say, or give me something and give me a book, or some devotee. I'll give you my example. I'm not an extraordinarily intelligent person. I'm an average guy. I'm in bhakti, and I always think, how did this happen? So sometimes me and my wife sit down and think, how did we come here? And then we pinpointed it out to one devotee. If any of you ever go to the temple of ISKCON Denver, Colorado, there is this sweet lady. Her name is Nidra, Mother Nidra. She's probably in her late 70s now. Amazing devotee. And there was a park close by to our house. We used to go there in the evening sometimes, and there Mother Nidra would come and distribute books. And she was always smiling. I had never seen a frown on her face. She would give books to people, and I had seen personally people got angry with her. Some people threw the book away in trash cans. Some people took a book. Some people ignored her completely, and never a frown on her face. And that impressed me so much. I wanted to see what was she doing that made her so effulgent and so effortlessly amazing. So it was her mercy that I came into bhakti. Similarly, if you see animals coming anywhere, that's the mercy of devotees. That's the mercy of devotees manifesting there. It's not like the dog did something. It's not like the parrot did something. It's just the mercy of devotees that has brought those animals to a position. And who knows, they might just cut out of that 8.4 million life cycle and just right away next life they will have a human birth. Yeah, that can happen. But it's not because they did something. It's because somebody had mercy on them. Similarly, me as an animal, if I'm as an animal, I would say it was the mercy of Mother Nidra that I was attracted towards this process. And once I was attracted, I was pulled in, a lot of other devotees. My life is indebted to so many devotees in bhakti. So it's your mercy that's bringing those animals in. It's not that animals had a karmic good karma accumulated that they were able to bring into it. They were able to come to bhakti and listen to or chant or something, whatever. Does that make sense, Madhu?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense, Prabhuji. But
Okay.
I also think that like some animals, like something is giving them idea. Say, hey, go here, go there. You'll I don't know. You will get mercy, maybe. Like
You never know.
you'll
Yeah,
get
could
food,
be.
or you'll get prasad, or something like that. Something
Yeah.
inside of me tells me that sometimes.
Yeah, that's fine, Madhu. But I can just tell you that I'm basing my thoughts on what Prabhupada has given us and Prabhupada has talked. I cannot comment on anything beyond that. Prabhupada is clearly saying, we read this here, that there is
Right.
a strict adherence to the laws of nature. There is no question of sin for them, nor are the Vedic instructions meant for them. So we don't expect them to be understanding, bhakti or anything. But yeah, I don't know. My limited understanding is what I just explained.
Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah. I just I was always thinking that what brings them there, but like you said, mercy. So there is no other answer besides just that. The goodness of a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many times, right? So many people, you can see Prabhupada, like somebody can ask, okay, yeah, probably all the hippies when Prabhupada came, they had some karmic, good karma accumulated. But if not for Prabhupada, they would have been in this, material world and all this nonsense stuff. If not for Prabhupada's mercy. So
Right, they would be stuck somewhere else.
yeah, they would be stuck somewhere else. They would have been cheated by some guru, probably died out of drug overdose. Who knows? God might have got some sexual disease or something, but people would have not been able to. It's only Prabhupada's mercy. We all today are here sitting, and I can sit in my comfort zone and talk about these fancy esoteric philosophy. From where is it coming? From Prabhupada's mercy, not my effort. It's just that Gyat Sukriti. I accumulated Sukriti at some point unknowingly, and Krishna is giving me result. So it's mercy always tops everything. If not for Prabhupada, none of us would have been here. Yeah. Okay. So,
thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So so this is the concept here, and then Prabhupada talks. We talked about the human diet, and so then living according to the Ishavasya principle. But going back, just another thought. We are vegetarians, right? Okay. So, but then some people also comment. I've had talked to many people who tell me that, hey, vegetarians also kill plants. Yeah, we kill plants. But I tell them that we are trying to live in this world with minimal karma. Zero karma only happens in bhakti. Only Krishna can nullify my karma, can make it zero. Karmani nirdhati kintu cha bhakti bhajam govindam abhipurusham tamaham bhajami. Brahma Samhita says that. Nobody else can. So what I am trying to do is live with minimal karma. Right? So to give a logical answer to such a question that, hey, even plants, you're killing plants when you're eating vegetarian food. Yeah. Scientifically, trees have a very poorly developed nervous system. Their consciousness is very, very dull. Okay? That's one scientific aspect. Naturally, if you don't cut a crop, it will perish, right? But then if you kill a healthy animal, it's not like it's going to die tomorrow. It might live another 10, 20 years, So when we kill animals, they're killed long before their normal death. And also intuitively, harvesting, when you harvest, right, it's a festive environment, right? In India, there are so many festivals associated with harvesting of crops. Whereas on the other hand, slaughtering is a very horrific atmosphere. So we eat fruits, we eat plants, right? Prabhupada used to say, yeah, you want to eat meat after the animal has died naturally. But nowadays, animals are being killed in slaughterhouses all over the place, right? So yeah, we eat animals. Sorry, we eat plants, and we are trying to minimize the karma as much as possible. And Prabhupada says in the purport at one point, where if I had here this line, one life is meant to feed another living being, and that is the law of nature. One should not be proud of being a strict vegetarian. What Prabhupada means, there's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's in the first canto somewhere, I forgot where. Ahastani sahasranam apadani chatushpadam falguni tatra mahatam jivo jivasya jivanam. That the animals who are devoid of hands are prey to those who have hands. Those devoid of legs are prey to four-legged animals. The weak are the subsistence of the strong, right? So one living being is a food for another living being. That's the truth of this world. So how can we live with minimal karma in this world, in a world where we have to survive on other living beings? That's our goal, right? Not necessarily the goal, but that's the way to live, right? So Prabhupada's point is much deeper. He's not asking us to just be vegetarians. That's what he's saying here. One should not be proud of being a strict vegetarian. Right? Our goal is to develop bhakti. That's our goal. Right? So we eat prasad. Right? Even in our scriptures, there is an option to eat meat, but then there is that you offer the meat to Kali, you take a part of it, and there's a verse that you have to chant, Mamsa. What Mamsa means that today I'm slaughtering you, tomorrow you will slaughter me. Ma Amsa. It will happen the same to me. So that should give us some sense of understanding that what I'm doing is wrong. So meat eating is allowed, but regulated. And that too for the lower sections of the society. Not for us. We are for higher sections. We are intelligent beings. Right? Our quota is primarily to eat what God has arranged for us through nature. Okay? So we eat prasadam. And prasadam means we acknowledge Krishna's mercy and we offer him love. Almost through all the cultures, there's a concept of thanksgiving. Christians say grace. Right? In Vedic culture, we offer food, right? And when we offer food, it is filled with bhakti. Yajna santo muchyate sarva kilbhisha bhunjate te adham papam ye pachanti atma karana. Third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that we offer everything we eat as a sacrifice to Krishna. If we don't offer, we are basically eating sin. So we all are prasadiyans, right? So the perfection of life is not to just avoid karmic entanglement. Less or more. It's not that. The purpose of life is to acknowledge Krishna's presence, acknowledge his mercy on us, and offer our love to him. That's what the concept of prasad is. Even in the prasad prayers, we say, Sharira Vidya Jal, Jatindriya Tahikal. We're talking about how our senses are very weak. Krishna, please have mercy on me. We're not just saying, oh, thank you for the food, I'll eat it now. No. The prayers are very much elaborate. I'm accepting that my senses are very weak. Okay, any thoughts or comments? Otherwise, we'll wrap up. This was something. Yes, please go ahead. Question, comments. I don't know. Sandeep Prabhu, you want to go ahead? Sandeep Mehta Prabhu?
Yeah, Prabhuji, one question, like, is veganism better than vegetarianism? Because, even with like milk and things like that, right? There's like a mass production of milk. So what do you think about that?
So, Prabhu, as I was saying, our goal is not to get out of karmic entanglement. We do what is the best we can. If there is a source where you can eat or you can get milk, which is, ahimsa milk, Gita Nagari provides it. We bring from moms. Moms does not have, for example, does not have vitamin D in it. There are a couple of other places I know where we can get milk where the cows are not killed after they have stopped giving milk. But then if you can't find it, it's okay. It's not like, so what I'm trying to say is don't focus excessively on this aspect of reducing your karma. You don't try to even understand the karmic cycle. It's very, very complicated. You try your best, but if your endeavor is so much in being a vegan or avoiding that it starts, you're moved away from your spiritual practices and your focus is, oh, how can I eat food that is not karmic, or how can I avoid karmic food, and I start to look at people condescendingly on people who are eating that or drinking those kinds, then the whole purpose is lost there. Right? So you have to look at it from that perspective. If you feel it's easy for you to do it, be my best guest, go ahead and do it. But as devotees, we know Krishna loves milk, Krishna loves milk products, and so we also love it. But yeah, you have to understand it from your practical perspective, that how practical it is for me. If you see milk, I understand. Adults might not need milk. Kids need milk. It's a proven, scientifically proven that kids need milk. There's a lot of calcium that we get from milk, proteins from milk. So if you suddenly stop giving milk to your children just because, oh no, there's too much karma here, you are probably going to affect the, you never know how it affects the children there. So yeah, you have to think it for yourself. What do you want to do and how you want to push on that path. Did that make sense, Prabhu? Did that help you?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
There was another hand raised. Was it Asmita Mati, you had a question, or you just have your hand up from the past?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I had it from earlier. Sorry about that.
Okay. Perfect. Yes. So we all are prasadiyans. We eat prasad, not try to overly complicate things, but live a very enlightened, engaged life. Any more thoughts?
Yeah, one thought from me, Prabhuji. I am super beyond words grateful to Prabhupada and to overall Krishna consciousness, because personally, I never used to give prasad to people. I didn't even ever think about that. I take prasad at work all the time. And you know, I feed prasad to all the animals that are around me also. And I mean, I have, you know, personally, you know, like you said, that although animals don't have karmas, you know, if they come close to me, they get automatically by taking prasad, you know, they go
Yeah.
they go to a point where I guess they basically never even thought about it because they don't even think about things like that, you know. So just personally, and because of you, Mataji, you know, Harinam Prabhuji, Vivek Prabhuji, I mean, I can keep going on and on. You know, all of the Krishna education. I mean, it has definitely changed my life for the better, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Devotee's mercy. We
Yeah,
all are
devotees.
we all are outcome of devotee's mercy. Nothing else. None of my hard work or effort is going to make any difference.
I mean, I would have never thought about bhakti in a way I think about it now, and taking initiation. I always thought about, you know, doing bhakti, but I didn't have a clue as to how to go about and reach a guru, or even get as close to Krishna as I have just in recent 4 or 5 years or so, you know. So I mean, thank you, Krishna.
Yeah, no, thank you, Krishna.